Anthony Rose.
Appreciate the love, Khaled. What up, Del?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in.
Together, we are Jalen and Jacoby in a wig. What do?
We get the people what they want.
Jalen Rose, I haven't been this excited about college basketball in a decade. You know me, I like to go to bed early, stayed up late last night to watch this Duke freshman class perform, and man, did they deliver. Of course, we're going to talk about Zion, but R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish, everybody showed up. It was a dominant debut for the Duke Blue Devils. Mr. Rose, what did you see from this trio of freshmen?
Zion Williamson is something truly special. Like, I don't recall seeing a prospect with this level of bulk, but yet versatility. You see his handle, put it on the floor, finish at the hoop. We know he's an explosive athlete. He's physically so strong, but yet he's so nimble and so unselfish. I appreciate that about this young group. So for these guys to all decide to go to the same school at the same time as top-level recruits, it shows a distinction in Coach K that he is now owning the fact that Duke has become a haven for one-and-done prospects. And R.J. Barrett, who played terrific, Reddish, who had 22 points, was awesome. This continues to show why the Duke Blue Devils will not only be ranked #1 next week, by the way, but have a legit chance, as we all know, to not only win their conference, but to win it all this year.
Absolutely. Not even a legit chance. I thought you were going to say legit chance to go undefeated. Again, this is literally the smallest sample size you could possibly have. Honestly, the smallest sample size you could have. It is one game. But wow, was that game impressive. And again, I think there's Zion Williamson always obviously had the highlights. He's going to be the headline, but the story is R.J. Barrett, and then you've got Cam Reddish. These are three players that I think they're all going to be lottery picks. But of those three, who do you think the best pro prospect is?
Well, you got to say Zion. I mean, in today's level of positionless basketball, to be able to handle the way he can, to be a really good passer the way he is, and just be an explosive athlete. Just think about this. If he played in today's NBA, he would be the second heaviest player in the entire NBA.
It's insane.
Behind Boban. The second heaviest player for a guy that can take off from the free throw line and dunk. This is one of the more unique prospects that I have ever seen. But don't sleep on R.J. Barrett. Now, you know I love lefties. I really love him to wear #5. This guy's smooth. He can shoot it. He has great court sense.
Defense.
And I love his demeanor and toughness. So, I agree with you. Along with Reddish, these guys are going to set collegiate basketball on fire this year. Duke starts 4 freshmen, and I agree with you that it's going to be an amazing season, but I disagree with you about going undefeated. I don't think that's going to happen.
Of course, especially with such a young core. But Zion, one of the most impressive things is he just, early in the game, I think one of the first times he touched the ball, he just stepped into a 3. Then later in the game, gets this block, leads the break, and then threads this pass. We've all seen the dunking highlights, but what is something like this? What does this 2 possessions tell you?
It tells me that the game has changed dramatically and for the better. When I played at collegiate basketball, you were going against teams that had juniors and seniors, and the Duke Blue Devils were one of those teams that thumped us along that same theory because they had great upperclassmen along with fab young players like Grant Hill and Bobby Hurley to go with Christian Laettner, who's considered one of the greatest collegiate players of all time. So for Coach K to reinvent himself and now embrace the one-and-done prospects, and we know politically he didn't want to do it initially, but the reality of it is Coach Cal was the one who ushered and owned the fact that I'm taking the one-and-done prospects. I'm going to show your young man what it takes to not only be successful in college, but how to be successful and make a lot of money in the NBA. And he will be up on the podium taking pictures with his early entrance. Coach K wasn't doing that. And so now to have the best player, the best coach in collegiate basketball actually coaching the most talented prospects that come out of high school, it just shows how this perfect storm is really setting up the Duke Blue Devils for dominance for years to come.
And just to visualize how Coach K has embraced this new style of recruiting, let's just take a look at this freshman class, the notable people in this freshman class: R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamson, Cam Reddish, Trey Jones. Look on the right side. The class rank, 1, 2, 3, and 17. And then also look at their production last night. Cam Reddish, who people aren't really talking about today, 22 points and looked great doing it. R.J. Barrett scored 5 more points than Zion Williamson. Of course, Zion Williamson had the loud points. Jalen Rose, it's going to happen eventually, so let's just start it now. This won't be the first time you get asked about comparisons between this freshman class and another very notable freshman class. Oh, I don't know, about 45 years ago in Ann Arbor. Are you ready for a full season of people comparing this team to the Fab Five?
I'm not mad at it at all. I saw a Sports Illustrated cover that held them the Fabest Five. I appreciate that they're giving them love. I wish when we were in college basketball, we weren't as, I guess, vilified for being who we were. But at the same time, that's what makes our story as notable as our productivity on the basketball floor. And when you get young players that are willing to sacrifice for one another, that's my big takeaway from this, is that you have some of the most talented players in basketball that all do different things. Like Zion Williamson gives you the bulk and the physicality and the explosive athleticism, but also R.J. Barrett gives you the smoothness, the ability to handle, the ability to play D. And then Cam Reddish can shoot it from the 3. So, like, all 3 of those guys complement one another, fortunately, like we were able to do at the University of Michigan. So I'm excited to watch them play, and it's going to be great theater all year.
Jalen Rose, am I allowed to call Zion Williamson a stretch mark 4?
He has no stretch marks.
Can I call him the greatest stretch mark 4 prospect in the history of college basketball? Am I allowed to do that?
The reason why you can't call him a stretch mark 4, I think you and I together have more stretch marks than he does.
That's probably true.
He doesn't have any. He's a brick.
I'm going to call him a stretch mark 4 anyway. I don't need your permission. Zion Williamson is the future of the stretch mark 4 position, and it's happening right before our very eyes. Something that didn't happen before my eyes, because I was watching Zion Williamson and falling asleep, was late in the night on the East Coast, the Bucks went into Portland. It went into Portland and played against the Portland Trail Blazers. And first of all, look what CJ did to White Dante. I mean, CJ did that to White Dante. Shout out to Bomani Jones. And they beat the Bucks. CJ finished with 40 points. Jalen Rose, what does this big win and the hot start from the Blazers tell you?
People underestimate the fact that Portland Trail Blazers were 3rd in the West last year. You bring back Nurkic, you have Dame Dollar, who's an all-NBA performer, and C.J. McCollum continues to get buckets. And they got off to a terrific start, but he wasn't playing like himself early. So for him to erupt the way he did against a Bucks team, which much needed, which is why the Portland Trail Blazers will now start to be a team that hopefully people start to pay attention to when they talk about the dynamics in the Western Conference.
Well, we've been talking about the dynamics of the Eastern Conference for quite some time, and I've been very high on the Milwaukee Bucks, but I have some bad news for Bucks fans. I'm going to name their next 3 games, all on the road on the West Coast, and you tell me if you expect them to win or to lose. Are you ready?
You got it.
They're going to play the Golden State Warriors next.
That probably is going to be an L.
And then they play the Clippers.
So the Clippers have vets, like guys that understand who they are at this point of their careers, going to sacrifice for the greater good of the team and play well at home. That probably is going to be a loss for the Bucks as well.
Then they go to Denver in that altitude to play the hot Nuggets.
Both of those teams are going to get up and down the floor. Like, that's going to be I'm putting 130 up on the board right now for the winner of that game. I say they probably drop all 3 of these games, but they have the Greek Freak. And when you have the best player, which they will have when they play against the Clippers, and they will have in the 3rd game that you mentioned, that gives you a chance that if he has a special night, they can still find a way to upset the apple cart. So I'm not counting them out.
They probably go 1-2 in their next games, and their record will not look as impressive as it does right now in a week. But moving on, it's time for Soft Move or Boss Move. I have a theory that adult males don't wear pajamas. Like, I think dudes regularly just kind of sleep in some drawers or whatever, you know what I mean? Maybe an undershirt. Well, LeBron James proved that theory wrong. Let's take a look at LeBron around the house. He's got basketball-themed zip-up hoodie PJs on. And he's getting clowned by his wife, which I always like to see. Jalen Rose, soft move or boss move, head-to-toe basketball PJs?
Boss move. Because, like LeBron James, the game of basketball has given my life everything. It's the breath for my personal existence. So it's only right that somebody that's so very accomplished in life like LeBron James, A, doesn't take himself too serious where he can actually rock pajamas, but B, of course you got to pay homage to the game of basketball because it bought the mansion that he's walking around in.
Soft move. Grown men shouldn't wear pajamas. I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how much basketball is the breath of your life or whatever, especially if it's got a zipper on it. That's not going to be comfortable. You're going to wake up, there's going to be a big zipper line down your chest. I promise he did not sleep in those pajamas. I'd find me an adult man that wears matching pajamas head to toe. They're not out there. They're not out there. Or they're over 60
bottoms.
And they wear like a little stocking cap when they go to sleep.
I wear pajama pants, but I don't wear a top. Yes, I do.
You wear pajama pants?
I do.
Really?
Absolutely. You ever heard of something called fall and winter on the East Coast? See, you've been in L.A. the last decade or so.
I grew up on the East Coast.
Right. You can't just be walking around with your underwear on and it's below zero outside. You wasted sweatpants.
Let's not discuss this.
You sleep in sweatpants?
Coming up next
on
Jalen Jacoby, we'll discuss how Michigan made their way into the top 4 in the college football playoff rankings. And in the break, we'll discuss sleeping in sweatpants.
I know you. You're going to wake up in the morning and be like, this is...
Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose, it's time. There's some very good news about the Michigan Wolverines football program. The college football power rankings came out, and they have the Michigan Wolverines at number 4. The Michigan Wolverines are now in the playoff. They essentially control their own destiny to play in one of the most meaningful games in the sport. Jalen Rose, how does it feel to be number 4 in the rankings?
It's an awesome tribute to Jim Harbaugh and how he's rebuilt the Michigan football program. And he silenced a lot of his critics. But as a supporter, as an alum, I've had some humility bestowed upon myself over the last decade or so. I got over one of those obstacles when we beat Michigan State.
This is exactly what I was thinking.
It's still one more obstacle we got to get over.
It's a high hurdle, my brother.
It's
a high
Ohio
hurdle.
State. I don't care if they lost to Purdue. I don't care if they played close against Nebraska. That's the game I'm eyeing and circling. If we're able to get past that hurdle, now we catapult ourselves into a really special opportunity.
Okay, you know I can go negative on anything, right? Would you almost rather not be ranked this high this early? Like, don't you kind of want to earn it? Like, now there's a little bit of pressure on the team to win the games. It's almost like every game is a playoff game now. Do you kind of feel the same way, that you would rather kind of sneak into the playoff than stay in the playoff?
I'd rather stay and not sneak, especially when you're 4, because you're the only team with a loss. The other 3 remain undefeated. One of those clearly beat you in Notre Dame. So I like the position that the Michigan Wolverines are in. But again, I need to see us take care of business versus Ohio State. I'm pretty sure this is what Jim Harbaugh is telling his football team. This is a revenge tour. It's not complete for the regular season until we take care of business at Ohio State this year.
That is going to be a big game. I cannot wait to text you during it. And Jalen, let's stay in football, but let's move on to a team that doesn't get a lot of media coverage, the Dallas Cowboys. Oh, wait, they get tons of media coverage because there's always so much drama surrounding this franchise. There's been a lot of criticism dropping down on Jerry's house ever since that Monday night performance where they lost to the Titans. But now the criticism is coming from within the house. This is Cowboy legend Troy Aikman making a very statement-filled radio appearance. Let's listen.
I'd say there has to be a complete overhaul of the entire organization. You just can't simply replace head coaches and say, now it's going to be better. No, it's been shown that it's not better. There's been times where I've heard Jerry say, okay, look, we're going to do it differently. I'm going to do it differently. You know, I can no longer, but it's the same. Nothing changes.
Jalen Rose, it sounds like Troy Aikman is calling for Jerry Jones to no longer have this sort of like tyrant-like control over the organization. It's almost like he no longer wants Jerry Jones to sort of be the owner and the GM. It sounds like he no longer wants Jason Garrett to be the head coach. Who knows if he even wants Dak Prescott to be the quarterback? He wants a complete overhaul. What do you think specifically he is getting at with this statement?
When you think about Jerry Jones, and this is going to be the 500,000th time I said this, he doesn't want an alpha head coach. We saw how that worked with Jimmy Johnson. Won 2 Super Bowls, didn't feel like he get all of the credit that he deserved. Still didn't put this man in the ring of honor to this day.
But
because
Jalen,
he holds a grudge from that.
Do you think Jerry Jones will ever hire a traditional GM, someone who has the autonomy to make player personnel decisions?
I not only don't think that he's going to hire an alpha head coach that he has to give millions of dollars to that's going to keep him in an ownership role and not necessarily treat himself like a coach, an associate head coach. I also don't believe he's going to hire a traditional general manager. He likes having all of those titles. It's really powerful. And also, his son, Steven, can quasi-do the jobs, but yet he still has that level of power and autonomy because that's his son. Almost like Jason Garrett being the head coach. So those are the dynamics. When Troy says complete overhaul of the entire organization, that ain't really means. What he means is Jerry Jones can't have all of the power in his fingertips in every decision that's being made if they're going to be successful.
And this goes beyond just the Cowboys organization. I think everyone watching that works in a corporate environment and even a group environment knows there are certain managers that don't want to hire really strong people underneath them because they do have to relinquish some control, share some of the credit. But obviously the best thing to do is to surround yourself with the most capable, intelligent people that you possibly can. That's going to lead to success. And I think that this has held back the Cowboys organization for many, many years. And you can tell by their one-loss record, especially in the playoffs. Jalen, it's time for Soft Mover Boss Move. I have a confession to make. I love Juju Smith-Schuster. I love it. You know what I mean? He's a great receiver, but what he does off the field is just so entertaining. It's Joel Embiid-like, but without the fanfare. He is a very entertaining personality, and this is his latest. He's got these cleats. What are these supposed to be, Jalen Rose? A Chipotle burrito. So he's got Chipotle burrito cleats. Jalen Rose, Soft Mover, Boss Move, Chipotle burrito cleats.
Those are cold. That's a boss move. I like the way those look.
Disagree.
They're shiny. They're awesome. Those look like they got a 2-touchdown game inside of them. Boss move.
They might have a 2-touchdown game, and Juju, I ride for you. You're one of my favorite personalities in sports. But I gotta say, look at these cleats again. They don't look like burritos. Like, what is that stuff on the tongue supposed to be? Filling? That's supposed to be lettuce? It looks like someone wrapped their shoes in tinfoil because they didn't want to get them dirty. Like, that doesn't look like the inside of a burrito. I've eaten many a burrito in my day. Sideways, the traditional way. That is not a very accurate depiction of a burrito. I like the concept. The execution, I feel, is off, and that's why I'm calling it a soft move. Jalen, you're not the only Jalen saying crazy things in the last 24 hours. Jaylen Brown, you will never believe how many championships Jaylen Brown said he was going to win in the next 6 years. It will honestly blow your mind, and we'll tell you exactly what that number is after this. Stay tuned.
We got to give the people what
Jalen and Jacoby. I'm David Jacoby. That is Jalen Rose wearing an afro wig. Jalen, there was a time in my life where I had enough LeVar Ball. Like, I literally would take him off the rundown day after day. I didn't want to hear anything about him. I thought he was manipulating the media. I just felt like that he was just a cancer that was just spreading all across sports media, permeating and killing us like a vine does a tree. But then he disappeared for a while. And then, you don't know what you got until it's gone. I started to miss LeVar Ball. And then last week he said that he could coach the Lakers with his eyes closed, and it felt good. I was happy LeVar Ball was back. Well, guess what? Now we have new news from LeVar Ball. He went to Twitter and announced this. My youngest son, Melo, has decided to complete his senior year of high school at Spire Prep Academy in Geneva, Ohio. He will earn his high school diploma and help lead his team to W's. Greatest show in high school hoops is back. Jalen, there's a lot to talk about here. But number one, let's just track LaMelo. He was at Chino Hills, and then he was in Lithuania, and then he was in the JBA. He never got paid to be in Lithuania or the JBA, so he's still eligible to play high school. And now he's going back to a much more traditional route of going to some super elite basketball academy for his senior year. How do you think this will change the course of his career?
Boss move. And I also felt like their middle son, I understand he got into some issues overseas with stealing, but I would never have taken him out of UCLA. I would have allowed him to keep that opportunity. I just think that was a golden look for him because I don't see him as a pro prospect in the NBA, period.
You're not alone.
With LaMelo going this traditional route, now all of a sudden people get a chance to look at him as a high school kid again. What ends up happening with the Ball situation, it became so much about personality, and it was larger than life. And Lonzo did a terrific job having an amazing rookie year. But then we started to discuss, and in a lot of ways, they started to move like the other two guys were already in the league, but they weren't. So when you send them overseas to play against older guys, they're not necessarily as dominant as you want them to be. They don't have the results that you felt they should have. Now you bring them back to the States and smartly put them at Spire Prep Academy in Ohio. The head coach of that basketball team is somebody like my little brother. His name is Jermaine Jackson. Finney High School in Detroit, played at University of Detroit, also coached by our father figure, Perry Watson. I know that he's going to do a really good job nurturing LaMelo along with all of the other highly touted prospects that he has, and it's going to be must-see TV.
Well, I'm excited for this for LaMelo because I always felt like LaMelo was a genuine NBA prospect. We both said it was like spades. It was two and a possible. And here's the thing is LaMelo, I think, has NBA talent, and I was concerned that the JBA shenanigans and the Facebook show was kind of like just taking him away from that. And now he's got a much more traditional path. Hopefully he goes to a college, does a one and done, and we see him in the draft in a couple years.
And also, too, I have to stress this. And this is one of those misnomers that happen in sports where we've seen players even get reclassified or gray-shirted. That's basically holding your son or daughter back a year so they could be older, more mature, and more stable with their graduating class. This also puts him in position to do that. Because when you come out after your freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year, whether you're 22 or 23 or 24, it really doesn't matter if you can play. But now when you're playing against your high school comrades, you're actually a year older. So it now puts you in a position to hopefully be more dominant in this case.
Well, Jaylen Brown was getting real comfortable in a Bleacher Report interview with Taylor Rooks. You know, he was comfortable and answering questions in a calm environment. And sometimes we all know that people forget that these microphones record what you're saying, and then they broadcast what you say out to anyone who wants to listen. And Ms. Rooks said, hey, Jalen, you are now 22. In 6 years, you'll be 28. How many championships do you think you will win in that span? Jalen, you will not believe what Jaylen Brown said. He didn't say that they would win 1. He didn't say 2. He didn't say 3. He didn't say 4. He said that in the next 6 seasons, he will win 5 championships. he didn't just say it all crazy. Like he said, look, I'm confident. I'm always going to bet on myself. He hedged it a little bit. Like he wasn't just talking crazy. But Jalen, this always baffles me when professional athletes set expectations so high. Why do you think he said this?
When have you known a Jalen not to be confident?
Jalen's all share that trait.
When have you known a Jalen to sometimes not have irrational confidence?
Jalen's, they share that trait as well. But this is completely irrational, Jalen Rose. Number one, I don't think he's going to be on the Celtics for this 6-year span. Like, let's be real about that. Like that is very much a possibility. Like, maybe he knows he's not going to be on the Celtics and he's got a wink-wink deal already with the Warriors or something. Like this is just extra. Like, again, he did hedge it a little bit and say, look, I'm a very confident person and I bet on myself. But I would never fix my lips and say that I'm going to win 5 of 6 championships. I mean, outside of that Celtics run, like, that has never happened in the history of the NBA.
E40, the counselor, came on our program and said the Golden State Warriors is going to win 9 or 10 championships, and we kikied and we laughed about it.
We sure did. We laughed when he was in the room and when he left the room.
And they're on the track to
he might be right.
Get over 5.
He might be right.
For Jaylen Brown, he does play with the Celtics, one of the top GMs, one of the top coaches. They have terrific assets, probably not 5. But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 1 or 2.
Well, doesn't look like the Wizards are going to win a championship this year. The Wizards aren't just like bad start. They look like a bad team, especially last night going up against the Mavericks, who aren't exactly the class of the Western Conference. It didn't look good. They've got Dwight Howard back, although he is a little bit hampered. But here's the thing, Jalen Rose. They've kind of feels like this team has to make a move. Like, it does feel like it. And they can't really trade John Wall until July 1st because of the 15% trade kicker that Zach Lowe explained for us in an article today. Are they going to move Beal? Are they going to move Wall and eat the 15%? Like, what do you see the future of this season for the Wizards will be?
This is a unique dynamic because the Washington Wizards have an all-star backcourt in Wall and Beal. But the chess move that they bet on was Otto Porter. They gave him a $100 million contract to solidify the wing position. When that player doesn't become somebody that performs at an all-star level, it now hampers you salary-wise. You bring in Dwight Howard to help at the hoop, be a finisher, give you some rebounding, give you some toughness. You have one of the Morris twins who provides that as well. But cohesive unit, for some strange reason, they're not able to get on the same page as it relates to communicating defensively, sacrificing for one another offensively, and it has shown me that the parts don't fit. I love the progression of Kelly Oubre. I like him as a young player, but they have so many guys that just haven't been game changers for what you hope they do. And it's not only about talent. It's about cohesion. It's about sacrifice and a level of discipline that they don't seem to have, which not only may force them to do a move, it may ultimately cost Scott Brooks his job, who they gave a $35 million contract to coach the basketball team.
It does feel like it could cost Scott Williams his job. And also, I like the way you explain that because this team on paper is not as bad as their record. Like, if you look at their starting 5 and even their bench, like, not too many holes in there. But then when you watch them on the court, it just doesn't seem to translate. Well, the Hornets beat the Hawks last night in a game that featured 2 notable dunks. First, we have this dunk from Sergeant Vincent Lamar Carter, spinning baseline, finishing with the dunk at 41 years old, does the engine rev, and then Miles Bridges. God, I love the power with this dunk. And then he also does the revving the engine little celebration post dunk. Is Miles Bridges too young, too early in the game to be mocking or paying tribute to, however you want to see it, Vince Carter's engine rev thing after the dunk?
Not at all. He made a big-time play. Vince is a future Hall of Famer. It's amazing to see him out there getting quality minutes at his age and still being able to be productive. For Miles Bridges, the play that we could talk about with the dunk, what I don't want people to underestimate, he shot the 3 from the corner with his left hand. He dunked at the hoop with his right hand. So what that showed me is a young player that has the ability to now translate his game from Michigan State, where he was really all left hand, And now all of a sudden for him to be able to finish at the hoop with his right hand the way he did, it was really impressive. I think he's a slept-on rookie in today's climate of the NBA. We talk a lot about Doncic and all of the guys that went high in the draft, and rightfully so. But I think he has a chance, along with his former teammate, Jaren Jackson Jr. in Memphis, to have a really nice career.
Jalen Rose in an afro, which we haven't really discussed for some reason, but I enjoy it. We'll be back. And when we come back, a former Finals MVP explained that he does not enjoy playing in the NBA, and I cannot wait to discuss it with you, afro or not. That's next on Jalen Jacoby. Welcome back to Jalen Jacoby. I'm David Jacoby. That is Jalen Rose in an afro wig for no apparent reason. Not everything in sports is worth discussing, so we have a segment called Keep It Moving, where if you want to discuss the topic, you say hit the brakes. If not, me, you, and Method Man keep it moving in our minivan. Are you ready, Mr. Rose?
Let's get it.
We have a Tim Tebow update. The new GM of the Mets says that it's possible that Tim Tebow ends up on the opening day roster of the Metropolitans. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
We're not going to talk about the Mets and force a topic. Keep it moving.
We keep it moving.
Okay.
We keep it moving.
We now have a number. We now know how much it costs to take a professional basketball and throw it into the stands at an opposing arena. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
I'll definitely hit the brakes.
You predicted this would be a $10,000 fine. It is now a $25,000 fine for Kyrie Irving to throw the ball into the stands. Jalen Rose, do you think that's a bit steep?
I think that number is about right with inflation and the magnitude of the fact that you sling the ball into the stands, like somebody could get injured. I'm happy that something didn't come out of him throwing the ball in the stands or somebody wasn't looking or something tragic could have taken place. But I understand his frustration, but you got to give Murray a lot of credit. He put that work in.
He was frustrated, and here's what he said. That's just so thirsty of a player to just go after something like that. Clearly, 50 points is a big deal, but get it within regulation. Take it as a man. Get your free throws and get to 50 points. And then he went on to say, but you don't want to wait till the end of the game when everyone's not playing and just launch up a shot and then nonchalantly go like this and shrug your shoulders as if it doesn't matter. It's a tradition in the league, but it's just immature. Kyrie still salty about this?
I'm not mad at either person's stance. That's just how it works. Like, people like round numbers. So it's one thing to say he had 48, but then when he had 50, then you start comparing how many different Nuggets players have ever scored 50 and how many players have put up that level of statistics versus the Boston Celtics. So it kind of just catapults it to a different stratosphere when it's a round number. But I understand Kyrie's frustration. But in theory, C.J. McCollum did the exact same thing. He had 37 points against the Bucks. He had the ball late. He wasn't going for it, too. He shot 3.
I liked it, too. Des Bryant worked out for the Saints, and there are rumors and word that potentially he could end up joining Drew Brees in the Big Easy. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
I'm happy that he's going to land possibly in a better spot than the Dallas Cowboys. Keep it moving for now.
Jalen been moving up. Jacoby moving. You know we keep it moving up.
A former Finals MVP says he does not enjoy playing in the NBA. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Oh, definitely hit the brakes on this.
So this is more nuanced than it sounds at first glance. So let's just get exactly what Andre Iguodala said about playing in the NBA. He said, quote, I always say I never enjoy my career. Well, here and there I do. But when we win championships, I never really enjoy it because it's like, all right, we got to go back to work tomorrow. The only time I enjoy it is like perfect plays. When we have a perfect play. In Chicago, I had fun. That's when it's fun to me. But that's rare, though. In Chicago, he's probably referencing the Klay Thompson game where they got Klay off to so many points. Jalen Rose, you played in the NBA. Is it really just like any other job that you don't really enjoy because you're kind of like doing it just because you kind of have to?
So it's definitely fun because it's a game and it's basketball. You're getting a chance to do something that you dreamed about doing, so there's a level of autonomy that comes with that. But like any job, there has its peaks and valleys. You ask anyone right now, regardless of their profession, if they could do somebody else's job, They say they'll do it for less. They say they'll work hard. They say they'll never miss a day. And then when you get the job, you complain about everything that comes with it.
If anyone hits the lottery, they're not showing up to work the next day. That's just kind of the way it goes. If I hit that mega power lottery, like, you're going to have to replace me, dog. You have to change the logo, change the pictures on the wall, everything, because I'm not coming to work tomorrow. We can still do this off wax, though. Moving on. 2 rap moguls might be buying up some television stations. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Oh, hit the brakes.
All right, this is more complicated than I'm going to make it because it's nuanced. But let me just start by saying this. The LL Cool J and Ice Cube are in discussions to get together a group of investors that could purchase up 1 or 22 of potential sports networks that are maybe going to be up for sale by the Walt Disney Company, the parent company of this show. I told you it was complicated. But at the end of the day, it's this. If Ice Cube and LL Cool J own television stations and we get canceled, you know where we're going. That's all I got to say. You know where we're going.
I'm about to hit them up right now.
I do love my job here at the Disney Corporation, and I love being a cast member. Moving on, a Chinese company is launching a foldable smartphone. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Foldable smartphone. Keep it moving.
Unnecessary.
We keep it moving.
Just seems
we
unnecessary.
Keep it moving.
Jalen Rose, everyone voted yesterday. I know that because every single person posted a picture of themselves with a sticker saying they voted on Instagram. But the people in Michigan voted on something that was pretty interesting. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Michigan, voting, hit the brakes.
Well, there's a new law in Michigan. And that new law says that if you are over 21, you can legally possess up to 2.5 ounces of marijuana. Not only that, it's not going to kick in like 2022 or 2023. It's going to start next month. Jalen Rose, you have a couple homes in Michigan. You spend a lot of time in Michigan. What do you think about this advancement, this evolution of the laws of medicinal in Michigan?
I'm just surprised it's only the 9th state. It should be the 50th state. Like, I remember being a citizen of this great country, and we promoted tobacco use. And you see Billy D. Williams and all of the people you felt like were cool that promoted things like tobacco and alcohol and things of that nature that do way worse for your body than marijuana does. And so for Michigan, it's a progression, it's a graduation, but I'm just waiting to see when other states are going to actually join the party.
You know what? I'm surprised. I'm not surprised they legalized it. I'm surprised about the 2.5 ounces thing. Like, could you make that an ounce? Like, who needs more than an ounce of marijuana? Like, you can legally carry 2.4 ounces of marijuana around? Like, that's a lot. Like, you're going to smell up the subway. That's a failed test. Coming up next on Jalen and Jacoby, John Harbaugh has a very interesting approach to the Ravens bye week after 3 losses. We'll explain it to you after this.